Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to the latest episode of the Weekend Crusaders. My name is Sean Waskrug, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Brian Michaels. Every week, we talk about 5 movies that came out during this weekend in movie history. Like most people say, it's usually 1980s and above, but it's what we like. But we got 5... I don't want to say 5 solid movies. We got three movies that we're both, for the most part, we like. And then we got one that I had never seen before until probably just a couple hours ago. And then we got, of course, the classic stinker. But we are going to start today with our Revisited. This is a movie that Brian and I both are very fond of. We both like this movie. I think for the most part, most people are very fond of this movie. Definitely the first one, second one, not so much. And I'm in that group as well. And maybe we'll touch on the sequel a little bit. But today, though, our Revisited film is going to be the 2010 comic book film Kick-Ass. Kick-Ass came out on April 16th, 2010, had a budget of $30 million, had a weekend opening of $19.82 million, which was number one its opening weekend, and its only weekend at the number one spot. Finished with a box office of $96.18 million, $48.07 million domestic, and $48.1 million international. Now, Kick-Ass, first off, Matthew Vaughn. I love Matthew Vaughn as a director, whether it be Kick-Ass, Kingsman. Even though you hate the movie, I love X-Men First Class. I love Matthew Vaughn as a director. I love his style. I love the way he shoots things. I love the way he does his action. You could definitely tell it is a Matthew Vaughn film, literally from the get-go. And every time I see Marv pop up, I immediately get excited because I'm like, oh, hell yeah, this is going to be great. But Kick-Ass was one of those, like obviously it's 2010. MCU was just kind of getting going. Iron Man and Thor and the Incredible Hulk. So it wasn't we weren't where we're at now, where it's like superheroes, up the ass with everything. But it was 2010. Like we had Dark Knight Rises. I think was on its way here very shortly. Kick-Ass came out, and granted, I didn't know much about the comic beforehand. Kind of like Scott Pilgrim when it came out. I didn't know much about the comic. I just was like, okay, cool. Here's a movie about a kid, average Joe kid, who just decides, why not be a superhero and see what happens? And then you have a great cast around him. It's brutal, which I think is what really sold it for a lot of people, is the brutality of it, which, once again, Matthew Vaughn at his best. And just the realism of it. That I think that's what really sold it, is that it didn't try to go, almost like the fantasy side of it with a lot of superhero movies. You're like, well, that would never happen, or this never. Everything is very, for the most part, grounded and very realistic. Like, this is what would happen. This is the stuff that would happen. And I think it's like I said, a great cast, and I'll touch on it more a little bit. Brian, what are your thoughts on Kick-Ass?
I'm kind of in the same boat as you in that coming into this, I didn't know anything about it at all beyond the title, and I heard it was like a comedy action superhero thing. But this isn't your Marvel and DC. This actually it came out kind of in that time. This is before Deadpool was. I think before Deadpool was even a thought for Ryan Reynolds at this point, or he might have started talking about it, but it wasn't getting made.
Origins was already a thing at that point, so Deadpool was around. But
yeah, so we never thought we were going to get something like that. A good, a full R-rated, go all. I mean, we had R-rated stuff like Blade, things like that. But as far as like the comedy and then it's the brutal graphic violence for fun's sake, for lack of a better word, this isn't something we thought we'd ever get. This is, but it's not Marvel, it's not DC. So we got this, and this was one of the most pleasant surprises I had seen in a long time. I mean, from the opening scene, I'm laughing my ass off through the whole movie. Just even as a superhero movie, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the characters they created. Because a lot of times these comedy superhero movies can get kind of a little too silly with kind of some of the characters, things like that. Like a lot of people have Mystery Men. I think it's okay. I'm not as big a fan of it.
It's fine.
But this one, I thought I really liked all the characters they created. Like the cast, like you said, is great. You got Chloe Grace Moretz, who I think she peaked with Kick-Ass. I don't think she's much of an actress. I think she fit this perfectly. I think she played this character great, but I don't think her acting never got any better than that kid level. Christopher Mintz-Plasse, who known from Superbad, and I think he'd been in Role Models at this point, I think. But he's done some other stuff. But here he kind of got to show a little bit more range because there's a little bit of a darker side to him in this. That he, instead of just playing the nerd. But yeah, I mean, right down the list, everything's good. The action's great. I like the music in it. I just think overall, even just as a superhero film or as a comedy, I think it just succeeds on all levels.
Yeah, I mean, and with Chloe Grace Moretz, I'm a fan of her, but I think we're all a fan of her because of Hit Girl. Like the very first scene with Chloe Grace Moretz, where you just have a father and daughter. They're in like a what do you call those, like trenches?
An aqueduct kind of thing.
Yeah, and they're just like, all right, what the hell's going on? And all of a sudden he just bam! I was like, holy shit! What? It's like, what is this movie? And then you get kind of the weird, like, okay, where is this relationship going? Because obviously, like I said, we never read the comics, and then we get the full introduction of Hit Girl. I don't think anyone who has ever seen the comics, you and I included, were expecting that level of violence. Because up to that point, we're just watching, David as kick-ass kind of with batons and getting his ass kicked. You're like, okay, well, he's gonna die. Like, there's no way this guy's ever gonna survive. And then she shows up and just starts wrecking shop, just murdering everybody. And you're just like, holy crap. Okay, this is what the movie is. This is fantastic. And just like, also like her with the language as well. It's like, you ever need us? The governor's got a light tower as a shape of a giant cock and shit like that. It's like, holy crap. And then, of course, I mean, and we're going to talk about him a little bit later. This is one of my favorite Nick Cage performances. I love Nick Cage as Big Daddy in this. His like, oh child, just so like it's so like cheesing it up as like the 80s like sitcom dad, but then be like a brutal Batman kind of killer. And how like he's such a nerd. Like his name should be Ass Kicked. It's just like so
I thought Nick Cage. I mean, this is kind of when Nick Cage started sliding off into kind of direct-to-video obscurity. Yeah, he was still coming out with some real movies now and then.
It was like Bad Lieutenant of blah 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 blah. It's like a few sentences long. Like he was doing like little things like that, like Sorcerer's Apprentice. Where like, okay, Nick Cage is kind of entering like that realm where he's not gonna be relevant anymore. And then he comes out with this. You're like, holy crap, Nick Cage is back.
Yeah, and I thought, like you said, he kind of played the geeky side of it, but then like when he's trying to be Big Daddy, he's kind of playing with that Adam West kind of Batman style to it, to his voice, and almost a little bit of Shatner in there sometimes too. The only time I was not as into it was, I mean, I still love the movie, but towards the end, in his last scene, basically, where he starts like screaming out weird, Twist 2, Kryptonite, all that weird. He's a little over the top Nick Cage there.
No, I'm gonna fight back on that because I actually love that. Because when he's yelling, he's telling Hit Girl what to use because she's never been in this moment before because she's flustered because she had just gotten
just the way he's yelling it while he's aflame, it was a little over the top Nick Cage.
He's literally on fire. He's burning. He's in pain, and he's trying to stay calm so she can't hear him screaming basically into his death. Spoilers. So no, I think I fit perfectly with it because you can tell every time he said it, she was like, yeah, okay. Like, no, I thought that scene worked great, and then I think his inevitable ending scene of that where he was like, like, I thought he did that perfect. Like I say, I have nothing but great things to say about Chloe Grace Moretz and Nick Cage in this film. Christopher Mintz-Plasse. Yeah. I would say his character is very much like, and I want to say this came up before this, his character in Fright Night, but not Rich.
This was a year before Fright Night. Yes. This
was before Fright Night. Okay.
1 year before.
He was basically playing the same kind of character in Fright Night, but not rich, mobster kid. But his character was fine. I would say if there was a weak point in the film, it's him. But he's a character that is going through his own kind of origin for the inevitable sequel kind of thing. Like he's there and he wants to just be a part of something, whether it's friendship or his father. He just wants to be a part of it, and then he gets into it. And then, the person that he trusts in terms of kick-ass, does what he does, or his father turns on him in a sense with how he captures kick-ass and Big Daddy. So he's constantly just kind of being thrown for a loop. But I think Christopher Mintz-Plasse does great. Aaron Taylor Johnson. This was my first ever introduction to really Aaron Taylor Johnson. He may have been in movies I've seen. I don't know, but this is the first time I actually noticed and knew who he was. Exactly. The same thing goes for Evan Peters. I mean, I didn't really know Evan Peters either, which we get the joke now. They're both Quicksilver in the movie together.
Right.
That's beautifulness by Marvel to cast both those two guys and have it be relevant, 11 years later now with WandaVision. I think that's perfect. And all of them just going, we're so clever. I don't hate the actor. I was not a fan of what the hell is his name? The other friend. He always plays
Clark Duke.
Clark Duke. Clark Duke's character. I just wanted him to get punched in the face so bad. There's so many.
He was fine as the third friend. I didn't have a problem with him. If he had a much bigger part, which he does actually in Kick-Ass too, but if he had a bigger part in this one, it might have been a bit much. But I had no problem with him here.
I think Aaron Taylor Johnson did a really solid job as Kick-Ass. He's one of those guys where now he looks like pretty much almost like a supermodel. Dude's ripped. He's got the right.
Oh yeah, he's ripped. I don't know if you ever saw like Savages or The Wall and stuff. I really like him as an actor, but he also looks very different. Yeah,
he's shredded. I mean, this to me, this is kind of like how a Peter Parker should be. Like with Tobey Maguire, he was too old. With Andrew Garfield, he's too cool looking. Tom Holland, perfect kind of blend. He's a decent looking guy, kind of nerdy, nice guy. Then turns into Superman. With Aaron Taylor Johnson, he made himself look as, I guess, nerdy and unattractive as he can be, with kind of the shaggier hair, glasses, kind of hunched up his shoulder, squeaky kind of quiet voice. But you see him now, and now he's just like, dude, if he got casted as Batman, I'd be like, well, okay, that makes sense. Look at him.
I'd love to see that actually.
Him in a Tenet. He was my favorite part he was one of my favorite parts of Tenet. Because and he shows up in the last second, I'm like, is that fucking Aaron Taylor Johnson? Give him where was he been this entire movie? Like, I want to see him and Pattinson be together. Like, nothing against John David Washington. It's just I liked it when he showed up. I was like, oh, okay, Tenet's actually kicking it up a notch. I think he does a great job of playing that kind of fanboy, and then kind of growing in, and then, like I said numerous times, he figures out that he's in over his head. He wants to get out. He realizes this is a pipe dream. This isn't going to work, and he gets thrown into this world. And then, of course, Lindsay Fasica? Is that how you say her name?
I don't have it right here.
Yeah, as
Fonseca, I believe is his name.
What's that?
Lindsay Fonseca.
I've always liked her, in TV shows and stuff, and I think she did a solid job in this film as well. And the relationship, granted, did they kind of speed that up? Yes. But I mean, it makes sense. Could they have kind of taken a little bit more of a beat with it? Sure. But this was all about the origin and the building of the world of superheroes. And then, of course, my MVP of this movie, I think he is hands down one of my favorite actors working today, is Mark Strong. Mark Strong is a fantastic villain. But whether it's this, Sherlock Holmes, obviously Kingsman. I love Mark Strong, and him in this movie. I think he did a fantastic job of playing, D'Amico. I loved his villain role in this, where it's like, yeah, he's got a whole bunch of goons to do everything for him, but he can F you up too if he chooses to. And like his fight with Hit Girl in the final act was one of those things. Was like, oh shit! Like,
yeah, he's just punching this little girl in the face. You're like, holy shit!
Was like, he doesn't need the goons. He just chooses to have the goons. Like, he could take out the goons if his own goons if he wanted to. So, that's the kind of the greatest of it. And I love that in the very first act when David tries to be Kick-Ass, it obviously fails. Because I mean, it had to fail because it's what happened there that led to him, making Kick-Ass work. And I love how much MySpace was called out in this movie.
Oh, I know. It's like you watch this movie, and I mean, the movie's not really dated other than that, because I mean, the world still looks pretty much like a modern world. But yeah, every time they mention MySpace, you're like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was like 2000. I was like, was MySpace still around?
I know you're thinking, wasn't it older than that? I swear MySpace was gone before that.
I feel like MySpace ended like pre-2010, but it's very focal pointed in here, and especially when you saw like all the red mist messages, I'm like, yeah, that's MySpace, man.
That's MySpace.
That's totally great. But yeah, the brutality of this film is great. The sequel, on the other hand, to me, fails miserably. I love Jim Carrey's performance in it, but then as soon as Jim Carrey's character goes away, to me the movie falls apart on itself. Because they started to make the hit girl kick ass kind of.
See, I will say I love the sequel. I really do. I enjoy the sequel a lot.
I will say this. I will say this. I have only seen the sequel once. I saw it in theaters. I was like, this is not that good, and I never watched it again.
I will agree that I think what dragged it down is trying to give Hit Girl kind of a bigger part and kind of her in that Mean Girls situation and stuff like that. And I didn't that whole subplot. I was kind of like, okay, whatever. But I actually really enjoyed a lot of the movie. But I will say, for me, the MVP of this movie of Kick-Ass is Mark Millar, the guy who wrote the original comic book. Everything he touches, I guess, seems to be written just straight for me, because Kick-Ass and Kick-Ass 2, they're actually both pretty faithful, especially the first one, very faithful to the original.
There's a big scene in the second comic. They tease that they're going to do in the movie, and then they totally.
Yeah, as I say, more in the first one, the second one. There are some changes, but because like you, I was not familiar with these comics. Like after I saw Scott Pilgrim, I went out and got those graphic novels because I loved them, and they're almost shot for shot, kind of a lot of times in the movie. Same with Kick-Ass. This first one is almost shot for shot. Is this movie? There obviously are some changes to make it work in a movie format, things like that. But he's also the guy behind Wanted. He's the guy behind Kingsman: Secret Service. He's been behind a lot of the best Marvel stuff. He was behind the original Marvel Civil War plot line in the comic books. He did Old Man Logan, which became Logan. I mean, this guy is one of my favorite comic writers, and there's a reason for it, because everything he writes just seems to be written in style that really appeals to me. So for me, kind of the source material was the MVP of this, but I think they translated it to film perfect.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, in terms of, like I said, the realism. I know we keep bringing that up, but it's such a huge thing about this movie. That's why it makes this movie as good as it is. Is like the heroes. I'm not gonna call them super because they're not super. The heroes do get outsmarted in this.
Oh yeah,
all the time. Like the whole like flipping the script, like the whole like it was like a Kick-Ass Unmasked Live, and we get that whole scene, and they just make you live in that scene. You know, like you're like all the people who are watching it on TV and then watching it on the computer. They don't just like rush through that. They make you sit in there and watch the torture of Big Daddy and Kick-Ass in that scene, and it's done, like I said, super realistic. It's super believable in what's going on, and it's such a hard scene to watch, but a great scene to watch as well. All the way up to, Hit Girl showing up and that whole sequence, which was also shot beautifully. You had the great first person camera, which did what Doom couldn't do. That first person video game format with her was great. The strobe light slow-mo attack worked great.
Great use of music in this movie too, especially the Hit Girl scenes.
Exactly. I was literally just about to bring up the scene where when she does the attack on the hallway, and they play I forgot. I'm horrible with the names of songs, but
Bad Reputation.
Bad Reputation, which this one works, unlike when it did in like Captain Marvel. But her fight scene, like the way she uses her weapons, the way she uses the choreography of this scene is great. She's little and she's using her little size to advantage. She's climbing up the bookshelf. She's wrapping around the legs, like doing hurricane ranas and head scissors, and she's using stuff to her advantage. And like once again, the great scene, like after she is behind the kitchen, and he's like, "I'm getting the bazooka." The bazooka? The guys are like, "You gonna need that?" Okay.
I do like that one scene where that big black body comes back in the room, and where D'Amico's hiding is like, wait a minute. He goes gets a bazooka.
I love the moment when he's like, "Oh, I've always wanted this," and Christopher Reeve's like, "You really taking that? Hell yeah, I'll take it." It's just like there's so many just great little hidden gems in there, and even the comic book origin story of Big Daddy, when they're actually showing it in a comic book form, looks great. It's
actually, and drawn by Mark Millar, I believe. Yeah, like all artwork on the wall where he shows like where he has all the pyramid of the mob or whatever.
The enemy pyramid kind of thing. I mean, all of it looks great, and could they have done a little bit more backstory, especially with is it Marcus? his partner, who ends up being like the surrogate father to.
Oh, in the second one, yeah. Well, I think that's why they kind of. I don't know if they needed more in this one. If there was no sequel, I would have felt that was kind of empty. But I think that because it got its sequel and they kind of got to play up how his connection to Mindy, that I thought it worked.
What I'm saying about a little bit more from him is like after he knows Big Daddy's gone, don't you think he would have went and tried to find her at that point instead? Like, wouldn't he have gone back to Big Daddy's place where he knows where they live and try to check on Mindy, where that whole time her and Kick-Ass are setting up for the onslaught at the end? Don't you think Marcus would have shown up at that point? Like, I'm just
it's
saying,
possible. I mean, it's hard to say how much time has passed, and I'm sure that the police are all looking for these people that just did that
overnight. It was definitely overnight because they escaped at night, and it was day when they attacked D'Amico's place. I mean, there's at least a good 3 to 6 hours there where, time could have elapsed. You would think if he's like, the guy who was basically her father for most of her young life, he would have went out looking for her because he saw the end of the footage. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was one of the things was like, that's nitpicking. It's nitpicking. But like I said, Kick-Ass is a great comic book film. A great, to me, a great one movie. To the point I've only.
You're great too. There's actually a third one and a Hit Girl comic, which I don't think they're ever going to get made. But I would love if they made the third one at least.
I would love if, because the thing is that if they did a third one, I feel like it only could be Hit Girl because you look at Aaron Taylor Johnson now. I mean, dude, like I said, he looks like Batman now. There's no way he could be Kick-Ass anymore. He's grown too much to be Kick-Ass anymore. Now, bringing her back to Hit Girl makes sense. I think it would work really well. And like I said, we know she can still do the action stuff. Like I said, earlier this year, she had Shadow in the Clouds, which you and I both know is kind of a little ridiculous, but I think she was fine in it.
It was still a fun movie. That one was way more of like a B movie, but it was still fun.
Exactly. But if you brought her back to do Hit Girl, and you get Matthew Vaughn, you get everyone back in it to just do a movie of a kind of a more grown up now version of Hit Girl, and leave Kick-Ass out of it because I think they said because Aaron Taylor Johnson he's just too big now to play the kind of like dude he's Big Daddy now. Like he would be Big Daddy. he's at Big Daddy level in real life. But I would love to see another adaptation of Hit Girl come back. I think she needs it. I really think she does because, like I said, she's doing Tom and Jerry, which she was fine. But it's just like
nothing about that movie is fine, but okay.
I think she did the best she could with what she had to work with. But I think for her career, yes, is it backtracking into something that she's already done twice? Yes. But I think a grown-up Hit Girl film, doing something that's different from the DC and different from Marvel, I think would actually be really awesome for her career and kind of resurge it in a sense. I would love to see her come back and do Hit Girl one more time, if not more, depending on how the movie would go. Anything else for Kick-Ass?
No, I think we covered Kick-Ass for me.
Is it? It's on Peacock, right?
You can watch it on Peacock, including the free version with ads, so just be able to watch there.
Yeah, granted. So if you guys have never seen Kick-Ass, watch Kick-Ass because Kick-Ass is
definitely watch it. It's great.
It's so great. If you like superhero films and you want something that's a little bit different than the DC and the MCU, Kick-Ass is definitely that film for you. So definitely check that out. Moving on to the next one, we're going to go to our stinker film this week. Once again, like I said, every week we either get the so bad that it's funny or it's so bad that it's boring. Last week with Dragon Ball Evolution, we were so excited for how bad it was going to be. And like Brian I said, it was like the first 30 minutes was bad grace. And then it just kind of got dull and boring. So we were hoping with this week we would get back to the it's so bad that it's funny, like kind of thing. And we picked this movie. I think this was a pretty clear cut. Like we're totally talking about this movie, right? And that is the 2003 comedy Malibu's Most Wanted. Malibu's Most Wanted came out April 18th, 2003, had a budget of $15 million, had a weekend opening of $12.6 million, which was number 3 its opening weekend behind Anger Management in its second week and Holes in its first week. Had a finished box office of $34.6 million, which was $34.4 million domestic and $190,000 international. Clearly, they did not like this movie overseas. Yeah, Malibu's Most Wanted. I mean, Jamie Kennedy. Loved him in Scream. I think he's one of the best parts of the Scream franchise. And that's it. He was good in Enemy of the State in his small little role there. But, I mean, between this and Son of the Mask, I mean, Jamie Kennedy kind of killed his career. This movie, by today's standards, no, cannot have this movie by today's standards. Like the whole time Brian and I were watching this movie, we're like, this is super offensive, right? we're both like, yeah, this is like we're cool with it. We're cool with it. Like we're not gonna like throw up in arms over because this is 2003.
I'm all for comedy if it's not politically correct, things like that. But you're right, it would not get made today because I mean obviously part of the joke is he's playing this stereotypical, you know, white guy trying to be a stereotypical black kind of character, and that's fine. But then you have like these the black guys playing right into it too, and then you got like Cal Penn playing the total, you know, Middle Eastern stereotype with his family. You know, they have rocket launchers because of, you know, they're apparently terrorists or whatever, and it's just like, really, not only would it not get made, but I can't believe you agreed to do this. But
yeah, there's just so many lines and just way they say certain things where I'm just like, ooh. That would have pissed off a lot of people today.
Yeah.
Like never once was Brian and I offended, but there was a couple times Brian and I went, oh, wow, that wouldn't have worked today. But this is 2003, which was a different time. But Malibu's Most Wanted. I mean, if you've seen the trailers or if you've seen this film, you know what it is. That's
the problem with it. It's a one joke movie for the most part, where it's like they took
It's a skit.
Well, that's the thing. Is this totally feels like, I think I told you this too. It feels like this is a character that he would have played on. He did that Jamie Kennedy experiment, which was kind of a hybrid sketch comedy, hidden camera thing kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That or like some kind of sketch comedy show. It seems like a character who would, you know, be a funny 5-minute sketch in something stretched out over an hour and a half movie, where you're just like, okay, we get the joke in the first 5 minutes. You know?
It's kind of like the Ali G, but not nearly as good.
Ali G, I just saw it for the first time this year. It's kind of the same joke, but they kind of made it work because they gave it more of a story. There's more to it than just that.
Yeah, it's because I mean, like I said, the main story is you have, you know, Jamie Kennedy. He's a rich white boy who acts like a rapper, and his father is running for governor of California, but obviously, you know, Jamie Kennedy's antics, or B-Rads.
Yeah, the movie starts out basically as Black Sheep, is basically what it is.
It's Black Sheep meets comedy light 8 Mile.
Yeah.
You know, B-Rabbit, B-Rad.
Yeah, clearly a spoof of that, which came out a year before this, I believe.
Exactly. There's literally a point where we're like, is he about to sing Lose Yourself? Because he starts almost like quoting the song. You know, but it's like, it's one of those things where, and then of course you have, oh God, what's her name? Regina Hall from the Scary Movies in this as well. So it's just like, is this a spoof movie? But I mean, like I said, his father's running for governor. Obviously, B-Rad's antics are causing him to lose polls. So the job is they hire 2 black actors who don't know how to act like gangsters to kidnap B-Rad and scare the black out of him. Just reading that by today's standards would probably piss off a lot of people. But that's the plot of this movie. And I think Brian and I were in agreement as we were watching this film. The worst part of this film is Jamie Kennedy. And it's not because his performance is awful or anything like that. It's just his story's one note, his story's boring. The 2 characters that we actually latched onto and liked were the 2, you know, actors, which was Taye Diggs and Anthony Anderson pretending to be the gangsters, because I don't want to say they're funny, because the movie's not funny, but they're definitely amusing at certain points, you know, discussing how they won. Biatch! They'll say it again with anger. Biatch! Like, just like them trying to act.
And then when they're in the hood and things get real, they're like, oh
no. Exactly. It's like, we were watching, it's like, you know, I don't hate the movie when it's just those 2 on screen. And
I enjoyed those 2, and like you said, I don't know if I can call them funny. There are definitely funny parts, but I thought they were the best part of this movie, and I would have been more interested if the movie was more just about them.
Exactly. If the story had been about these two actors, which there's a scene where they go, we keep getting typecast as these gang members. I want to do something bigger. I want to be treated with respect. If the story was following these two and they get hired to basically take care of this kid who's acting, ridiculous, and it's all about their journey to try to get their job done, which, granted, the story's doing that, but then obviously the focus is on Jamie Kennedy's character and not those two. So, I mean, it's not like it would have been that much of a swerve to change it, but if you would have had more of the backstory being about these two guys trying to strive to break the norm and to kind of like grow as characters and actors and stuff like that, it may not have been as bad. But then you start to, as the movie goes on, they start to come further and further apart of the narrative because, Jamie Kennedy starts hanging out with a real gang, and Terry Crews shows up as just big man number one, and like he barely has any lines in the movie because it's like Terry Crews pre like white chicks and like all this stuff. So, I mean, he hasn't like hit like Terry Crews level. He's just still like that generic big dude who dances at least once in every scene. But as soon as he starts to join, was it the I-9s? I think it was the I-9s, which literally, are they taxpayers? Like, what is going on there? But as soon as he joins the I-9s, Anthony Anderson and Taye Diggs' characters, they're just background the rest of the way, which is like you took the best part of the film and you just made them backstage props at this point. But I mean, and then he literally quotes Training Day in the movie.
Oh, I know. When he did that, I'm like, they did not just quote Training Day.
Once again, a year. It was like only was it? No, it was like 2 years, 2-3 years. Training Day was
2001, I believe.
Yeah. So it's one of the things where it's just like they're quoting him, quoting all these movies that are really relevant still, and it's not funny jokes. Regina Hall, she's fine in it because she's playing a certain a typical role. But I mean, the rest of the cast, Cal Penn and Nick Swartzen, like they're his buddies, but they're barely used. Kelly Martin, Greg Grunberg, and Blair Underwood. I feel like they probably could have bigger parts, but they're once again like they're not the focal point of the story. But it's one of those things where the premise is there, and through the first like 20-30 minutes, Brian and I are like, well, this is kind of offensive to a lot of people today. And then the story starts to get into it, and we're back to just being boring. Because I called Brian.
I'd almost rather they just keep throwing the jokes at us,
Yeah, I was like, I called Brian out at one point because I was like, Brian, stop looking at your phone and watch the movie because his head was down, and he's like, I'm looking up the cast. And I'm just like,
no, I was gonna see somebody. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that person's in this, and where do I recognize that person from? Like the one main gangster, Tech. I didn't realize he was one of the Wayans clan.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like the nephew of Keenan and Damon and them, but yeah.
But I mean, it's one of those things where it was just like, once again, just like with Dragon Ball Evolution, like not that the first 30 minutes you're shaking your head and like this is so stupid. It's just like it's not even like funny stupid where we could poke fun at it. It's just kind of like, wow, this would not work today. And then the story kind of goes in their thing, and it's just like.
And I didn't like some movies this works in, but a lot of movies seem to use this, and I don't really like when they throw in these random I don't want to call them dream sequences, but like something happens, but it's not what's really happening. It's going to end up going back to the person. They're just like imagining this, and then they go about it completely differently. And they do like 3 or 4 times in this movie, and it's just like, okay, A, he didn't fool us at all, and B, most of them are dumb. I mean, you got like Snoop Dogg as a talking rat for no reason. It's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, like I think the first thing they did is when Regina Hall shows up and she throws her like glasses and purse. You're like, you go, who'd she throw it to? And I'm like,
and then she starts taking over her shirt. We're like, oh, it's clearly a dream sequence.
A dream sequence, and then she starts. I'm like, yep, it's a dream sequence.
And then when he goes to hold up the liquor store, the convenience store,
hold up the liquor store, and then the one part where it's like, this is a dream sequence. Like, no, it's not. This is really happening. Where apparently there's a big shootout and not a single person gets shot.
Oh, yeah, the gangsters come by. There's a Mexican gang comes by, and there's like 20 of them, all with like automatic weapons, catching them, the other people by surprise. So they just walk up and shoot. Nobody gets it. Yeah, not even a bullet wound.
There's a good 3 to 5 seconds that everyone's just standing around as they're running up, shooting up. They don't hit anybody. And Jamie Kennedy stands up there for probably about a good solid 10
standing on top of the car, yeah.
No. I'm talking about before he gets dragged.
Oh, before that, yeah, okay.
He's like, oh, blanks, these are all fake. Like, fool, get down. You didn't hit him once? And then he stands up there and starts doing the whole deal. I'm just like, granted, he wasn't going to hit anybody because he's just doing this, but he should. One of them should have gotten shot, and then Jamie Kennedy shoots himself in the foot at one point, and he screams bloody murder for like 5 seconds, and then after that, he's totally fine. And it's just like, but then he gets harpooned later, and like that hurt him. You know,
there's one point. It's probably I don't remember what it was. It was like less than halfway through the movie where we thought something happened where we thought he was dead or something. And we're like, oh, end the movie, cool.
Oh,
I don't know what it was that happened, but we were like, that'd be a great end of the movie. Just end the pain right there.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there was something. I think it was like when they kidnapped him, and they were like, you know, we'll kill you if you do this, and we're like wouldn't it be funny if they just straight up killed him and that was gonna be killed? Like that was the moral of the story. Don't pretend to be something you're not.
Yeah.
This whole thing is like this is who I am. This is who I've always been. Stop trying to change me. Like this is who I really am, kind of crap. But it's like, you know what? That would be a great moral of the story if we gave a flying fuck about these characters and this movie, which we don't. And that's kind of Malibu in a nutshell. It wasn't fun. There was not a whole lot of fun stuff to make fun of or even joke about. It was just kind of like, okay.
And like you, I mean, I like Jamie Kennedy and like Scream and things like that, but it's yeah, I guess he didn't have much more to offer on that. And I know now he's in like the Tremors movies and things, but it's like, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I looked up a picture of him. I was like, because I was curious, and I was just like, oh my god, he looks rough. Yeah, your Brian's like, have you watched Tremors movies? Like, I haven't watched Tremors since Tremors 2. I didn't know Jamie Kennedy was in like
he's like the last 2 or 3 of them. Yeah,
there's
like 6 of them now, 6 or 7 of them now. So.
Yes, he survives. I remember they were gonna do a Tremors show, and Kevin Bacon was gonna come back, and then they just
they won't do that. But they keep pumping out these shitty sequels with Jamie Kennedy.
Yeah. Give me Tremors with Kevin Bacon back. I'll come back to Tremors then.
Right.
I'm gonna watch it with Jamie Kennedy. Nonetheless, Malibu's Most Wanted. I don't think it's on any streaming service.
You gotta pay to watch this one too, and don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it. This is not fun. I'm kind of bummed. This is like our 3rd week in a row we haven't had a good funny stinker. Like ever since what was it, Never Back Down? I don't think we've had a fun stinker. Like the first 30 minutes of Dragon Ball Z, nothing. It was great, but I mean, yeah, it's like I'm kind of bummed. I think I'm hoping next week's.
I think next week's is going to be fun to make fun of, even though it's not a comedy at all.
Going to be our saving grace, coming back to yes, now we can have fun. We'll find out. We'll find out what next week, or it's going to be another one of them. Like it had potential to be something we could make fun of, and it was just boring.
Yeah,
we'll find out. I hope to God it's a fun one that Brian and I can enjoy watching. Next, we are going to move on to my pick. It is another superhero film. It is a film to me that I think this movie gets shit on and has no right to get shit on. I think at the time it was a very solid adaptation. I literally just got done watching it right before we started shooting this. And I still enjoy it. I still enjoy it to this day. And that is the 2004 adaptation of The Punisher. The Punisher came out April 16th, 2004, had a budget of $33 million, had a weekend opening of $14 million. It was number 2 its opening weekend behind Kill Bill Volume 2 in its first week, and had a finished box office of $54.7 million, $33.8 million domestic, $20.88 million international. Look, I'm going to say this right now. Yes. Marvel's The Punisher on Netflix with John Bernthal. That's Punisher. He's fantastic in that. Like that Punisher is the best Punisher, hands down. But 17 years ago, there was The Punisher with Thomas Jane, who I actually really, really like Thomas Jane. I wish he would do better films now because I actually really like him. And he did his version of The Punisher. And I mean, granted, this Punisher was more about the origin story of him becoming the Punisher, not like him, just already being the Punisher. Because literally the movie ends with him calling himself the Punisher for the first time. But listen, I liked Thomas Jane's performance in this. I think this was one of the few good villain roles for John Travolta in this. I think there's you got Will Patton. Ooh, I love him pretty much almost everything he does. I think he's a great number 2 to Travolta in this film. We talked about him last week, Ben Foster. Not his best role, And
It's another role like his one last week where it's like a little weird.
Oh no, Ben Foster wasn't in a movie last week. That was Tucker. That was
I'm
Tucker.
sorry, it was 2 weeks ago then. Whenever you're filming.
We were lumping them together.
Yeah.
But Ben Foster's in this. It's not his greatest performance, but I think he gets better as the movie goes on. You got Rebecca Romaine Stamos, Roy Schneider, small role. I think he had a really good role for the beginning of that film, and then made me miss him because this is, I think, one of his last roles, I think, actually. But I think Punisher, it's not, this is, once again, we're like you were saying, this was back when, before the MCU, where we had rated R superhero films with, Ghost Rider, Blade, and the Punisher, where it's like, look, we're just going to make these Marvel movies. We don't care if they're kid friendly. We're going to make them brutal. And because this is an R-rated character, let's make an R-rated film about it. And I think Thomas Jane's The Punisher was really good. You have a great, not that the movie's supposed to be funny, but I'm sorry, Kevin Nash's The Russian, that whole sequence is fantastic. I love the Russian scene where Thomas Jane's literally getting ripped to shreds by Kevin Nash. And like they got the operatic song playing behind them, and like there's so many times where like Kevin Nash or Thomas Jane's trying to stop him, and Kevin Nash is just destroying him like the bent gun. He's just like, man, come on, and he just keeps getting thrown around. I love that scene. I love the cat and mouse game that Thomas Jane's Punisher plays, or Frank Castle plays with Howard Saint at the end in the third act. I love how he kind of got his revenge in a way that wasn't so straightforward, that it was a mind game kind of thing, which is not very Punisher-like, but you know what? It works for me in this film. Brian, what are your thoughts on the Punisher?
First of all, going into this, I was familiar with the Punisher character. I never read any of the comic books, anything like that. I don't think I ever saw the Dolph Lundgren version, but that's probably for the best.
I never had either.
So I know who the character was, but I didn't know anything about him. So I'm not going to be judging him against the comic book because I got nothing to judge against. Also, I've never seen the TV show with John Bernthal because I'm not a fan of most of those Netflix Marvel shows, and John Bernthal I kind of like in supporting roles. I don't think I like him as a lead, but
he's so good in that.
That aside, I think Thomas Jane himself does a good job as the Punisher. I think that he deserved better than this movie, honestly, because I think the things around him were not up to his level. If you've ever gotten a chance to see, you can probably find on YouTube or something, somebody else completely unconnected did a short called The Punisher. It's called Dirty Laundry. It's like a 10-minute short made by somebody else. Thomas Jane reprises the role of the Punisher, and it just shows like what a really good, hardcore, gritty, Punisher movie could be with Thomas Jane if they, really went full into it. For me, this one kind of fall into a weird area because it's like this is before kind of the MCU started, but there have been some Marvel movies like Spider-Man, things like that. But this one, it felt like more akin to like those 90s kind of superhero comic movies, the Dark Man, and not quite as bad as like Shadow and Phantom, things like that. But just the style of it was a little cheap. The stories were a little cliche. I didn't hate it. There were things about it I liked. I did like, like you said, some of the ways that he was going about getting his revenge. Where he's like, I made you kill your wife. I made you kill your best friend. These kind of items. I thought that was kind of a clever way for him to do it. But again, like you, I don't know if that's the character. It seems like he'd be a little more straightforward. I'm going to kill you.
He's more straightforward.
Yeah. John Travolta playing one of his John Travolta roles, which he wasn't awful, but he wasn't great. He was just kind of when I don't like John Travolta's a bad guy, really, in most movies. I mean, like Broken Arrow, I think is horrible.
I don't like his performance in Broken Arrow, and of course, you don't like Face Off, but I love Face Off.
And I hate Face Off. Swordfish, I enjoy his movie, but he actually felt very close to his performance here. This and Swordfish. So I mean, he was what it was. I did think it was odd that they put the Punisher in this this kind of gritty drama. You'd think it'd be in like a New York City, like Hell's Kitchen, Detroit kind of thing, and they set it in Miami, which I thought was a little weird.
Yeah, this is the origin. This is what.
Yeah, now I mean maybe they were going for that kind of that contrast between him and like the bright setting, but it seemed like it didn't feel like a Punisher kind of thing to me. But that's just nitpicking there. I mean, but overall, I mean,
Was it in Miami?
It's somewhere in Florida. I don't know.
Because his family got killed in Puerto Rico. Because they're in Puerto Rico when his whole family gets gunned
But I
down.
thought that like John Travolta's club and stuff. I thought that was in Miami.
No, I'm asking because I can't honestly don't remember them actually ever really saying where they were.
Oh, I don't know. Somewhere sunny and tropical. That's all I know.
Could have been Los Angeles, but yeah.
but I mean, there are definitely far worse movies. Like I said, this isn't on the level of like
Tampa Bay. They're in Florida, yeah.
Tampa Bay, okay. So I mean, this isn't on the level of like, you know, The Shadow and The Phantom and some of those really bad hero movies, but it wasn't really up to the kind of the new what superhero movies were finally able to become, you know, in the next 5-10 years after that.
No, but granted,
Thomas Jane though I liked.
But granted, you got to look at the time. Like, yeah it's 2004. I'm talking about it like it was ages ago. It's not. But you got to look at what 2004 was. We had Blade, dark, gritty vampire killer. You know, you had Ghost Rider, dark, gritty, you know, horror film, and then you had Spider-Man, colorful, flashy, and then you had X-Men, which also X-Men, kind of darker color, kind of darker gritty. Yeah, so like that was the tone of the early 2000s until. You know,
well, it wasn't the dark gritty because dark gritty is actually what Punisher should be. Exactly. For me, it was more just the I can't even describe it. Just something about the style of the movie and the filmmaking. It had a very that mid '90s feel to it, which isn't always a bad thing. And like I said, it doesn't kill the movie for me. It dates it a little bit. It kind of sets it aside from kind of other superhero movies or other comic book movies. But I mean, I didn't hate it. As far as the cast, I mean, I like most of the people that were in it. The characters, like I said, Ben Foster was in it. I like him. The character's kind of whatever. Rebecca Romijn, you know, I don't really buy her. She seems too hot to be living in this, you know, basically crack house apartment building, whatever it was.
Well, he was a former addict and
stuff like that. She certainly didn't look like it. She cleaned up well.
Exactly. But it was one of those things too where it's like you're Mystique and you're still Mystique at this point too. So it's like, you know, that and they try to force a relationship on her. It's like you have never really met this dude outside of like one moment. It's like, and you're trying to like, let's let them date. And it's like, no, you don't know. Like, you don't know who the hell this person is.
Apparently, and he's all, you know, suicidal just because of the death of his wife and kid. And it's like, he's not going to jump into it.
It's not even his wife, his kids, his entire family, dude. They killed his entire family. Which, once again, watching the movie back, I never really thought about this. None of this would have happened if it wasn't for John Travolta's wife. John Travolta just wanted to kill Frank Castle. He's like, I was going to kill him. That's it. She's like, no, kill his whole family. And it's like, oh, like I forgot about that. I was like, had she not done that, Punisher probably never would have happened. It's all her fault because Travolta was just like, okay, we'll kill him and we'll be good.
That's why I mean, when he starts clearly setting it up that he's trying to set up, you know, his wife and then Will Patton's character and it's that Travolta's basically going to take care of him. You're like, oh man, this is kind of rough. He's going to make him kill his wife. And you're like, oh no, wait, she deserves it.
Yeah, one of those things was like, oh, but no, it's like, no, she's the reason they killed 30 of his family members. It's her fault. It's not Travolta's. Travolta was going to kill him, which, okay, hindsight 2020, it was his, you know, operation that got his son killed. So he wants Frank Castle dead. Granted, that was going to be the end of it. I killed him. We're good. She's like, no, kill his whole family. Like, all right, that's a little too far. You know. Now, granted, he was supposed to die too, but it's like all this is happening because of you, not because of Travolta, because of you. So, who's really?
Yeah, I'm still not sure even how he survived because he got just like blasted away so many times.
He got shot in both. He got shot in both legs. He got shot in the arm. Got shot point blank range, and then he got basically like blown up off the pier. And
it wasn't like he was like somebody found him right away. He went into the water, floated around however long until he finally got to shore, then got found like the next morning by some guy. It's like,
granted, he's bleeding in the water. Some shark would have came up at some point and ate his ass.
That's true.
But yeah, it's Deep Blue Sea. You know, but yeah, it's like even like I said, Brian, you really should watch the TV series version.
I keep telling me that. I can't get into those Netflix.
Well, no, because there's a high possibility that they're going to bring Bernthal in the MCU. It's him and Daredevil. Those two are there's a high possibility that both of those two are going to get brought into the MCU with those characters. So you might as well start, you know, watching them and catching up with them. I mean, you're already watching Falcon Winter Soldier and WandaVision. Why don't you watch Punisher, or Daredevil for that matter? They're really the two best shows to watch out of those. But yeah, I was like with Punisher, it's like I agree, it's not the best one out there, but I don't think it deserves Like, it's not as bad as Ray Stevenson's Punisher Warzone or Dolph Lundgren's
Which I saw,
Punisher.
I can remember one frame of it.
They're both completely unforgettable. But I remember Thomas Jane's The Punisher. That song that I'm blanking on the actor's name that he goes into the diner and he sings the My Time, or I think is what the name of the song is. I have that song on my playlist still. Like, I love that song. I thought that was a great song. Like I like the Punisher. It's not one of my favorite superhero movies, but I think it's actually a really solid film that I think deserves a little more credit than what it's due for the time it was, because it's better than the Ghost Riders and it's better than Blade 3 in my eyes. It's not better than the first two Blades, but still.
Blade 3 is better than Blade 2. But anyway.
That is, oh my God, no, it's not. It is not. It's so not. Blade 3 is awful, and that's coming from someone who loves Jessica Biel, who
Blade 2 is
Ryan
mediocre.
Reynolds, and Triple H is great, but it's got Parker Posey in it, and right there kills that film. We're not talking about. Maybe we'll talk about Blade Trinity at some point down the road. But, The Punisher, it is. I think it's on Cinemax Go or Max Go.
Yeah, that's about it. So really I have to wrench other than that. But like I said, if you take nothing else from this, go find Punisher Dirty Laundry and watch it. It's like 10 minutes.
Plus,
worth watching.
Without Punisher, we never would have gotten the Veggie Police with Thomas Jane and Scott Pilgrim. And you know it. You mean
the Vegan Police?
The Vegan Police.
The
Thomas
Veggie Police.
never would have been casted. Did I say Veggie?
You said Veggie. I was picturing Veggie Tales or something.
Thomas Jane never would have been casted as the Vegan Police if it wasn't for the Punisher, and you know it. So if there's one thing, it gave us a great scene for Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Yeah. Going to our next pick, it is Brian's movie pick. I would say most people are very, very fond of this film, at least from what I can tell from my Letterboxd friends. I have never seen this film before, so this was a first-time watch for me, and that is the Coen Brothers comedy, Raising Arizona. Raising Arizona came out April 17th, 1987. Couldn't really find a firm lock on the budget, but it was somewhere between.
I remember those 80s movies, yeah. It
was between $2 and $6 million. Like I was hearing various reports, but it was between $2 and $6 million. Had a weekend opening of $2.45 million, made $3 million limited before its wide release, and it started at number 8 its opening weekend, behind The Secret of My Success in its second week, The Aristocats in its second week, Project X in its first week, Blind Date in its fourth week, Police Academy 4: Citizens on Patrol in its third week, Lethal Weapon in its seventh week, and Platoon in its 18th week. Had a finished box office of $29.18 million, $22.84 million domestic, and $6.3 million international. Brian, why don't you start it off, since it is your pick about Raising Arizona?
Yes, Raising Arizona. This is, I want to say, the second film from the Coen Brothers after Blood Simple, their first comedy, which for me, I tend to gravitate towards their the good comedies, not Lady Killers. But this Big Lebowski, I like Hudsucker Proxy, Oh Brother Where Art Thou. I tend to like their comedies more than like their noir kind of crime films. Although some of those are okay.
Did you like Burn After Reading?
What's that?
Did you like Burn After Reading?
That one was hit and miss for me.
Okay.
There were things about it I liked. But yeah, this was like their first comedy, so it was kind of new to everyone. We weren't sure what to expect from this. Nicolas Cage in his second appearance on our show today. This was
week. I was kind of bummed that we didn't have a third Nick Cage movie.
This was his I want to say first starring role. He'd been in like Valley Girl and Peggy Sue Got Married, things like that. Is kind of like the boyfriend or the second banana, whatever. This is kind of one of his first starring roles. Holly Hunter, this is the first place I ever saw her. A lot of people that you see a lot since then. John Goodman pops up in this. There's just a lot. It's got a great supporting cast to it. This movie is one that I will admit, when I first saw it, I had it pushed on me I worked in a video store, and the manager, she really loved this movie, and she always wanted to play this movie. And I was kind of like, I don't know. But the more I watched it, the more I grew to love it. I mean, it definitely has a very Coen Brothers kind of style to it, both in the dialogue and the brand of comedy, and also in the way it's filmed, the cinematography, things like that. It's you kind of see a lot of the stuff they've used ever since then. It's kind of this is one of the first examples of that. It's an odd movie because there are parts of it, a lot of it's kind of very broad, some physical comedy to it. Like there's a fight scene with Nicolas Cage and like this biker bounty hunter who's
Oh, you mean Ghost Rider?
Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider, which I was like, wow, very very big foreshadowing there that Nick Cage is having a nightmare about Ghost Rider.
See, because of that, he decided he wanted to become that character. That's what it was.
Apparently.
But there's some broad comedy, and especially the dialogue. They're using some real, they're using some, funny accents through the whole movie, things like that. But really, I think everything about this movie, and now I don't love this movie as it's not like one of my all-time favorite comedies. I mean, it's a movie that, I don't know if it'd make my top 100, but it's a movie I enjoy very much. But it's not like one of the best comedies of all time. But I every time I watch it, I enjoy it. I laugh a lot, especially like I said, when you bring in like John Goodman, a lot of these people who in the years since then have had these great careers. This kind of shows like some of their early roles and where they first started out.
This is pre-Roseanne, right?
This is pre-Roseanne, I believe. I can check that. But what are your thoughts on it? You saw it for the first time, right?
Just I was like, I was gonna let you keep talking, good things about it as much as you could. So you don't have anything else to add for Raising Arizona?
Well, I mean, there's different aspects of the movie. Like I said, I talked about the cinematography and the writing. Of course, they're very Coen Brothers. The soundtrack. And we've talked about before how the Coen Brothers really like to incorporate music in their movie. And this one is like this weird. I don't want to say yodeling, but it's this. It's kind of a Western yodeling kind of thing to it. I don't know how to describe it, but there's kind of an ongoing thing throughout the movie. So the music, which sounds obnoxious. It works in this movie, I think, at least for me. I'm betting Sean says it absolutely does not. Even Frances McDormand, I think one of the greatest actresses of all time at this point. But I'm saying it's just one of them. She shows up in one of her first early roles because, of course, she married one of the Coen brothers, so she's in like almost all their movies. I mean, I just think this is a funny movie, and apparently you don't. So go ahead.
Yeah, and I looked it up while you were talking. This was 1 year before Roseanne.
Okay.
This was pre-Roseanne for John Goodman. The more and more I keep thinking that I like the Coen brothers, the more and more I keep getting proven wrong. Because every time I keep watching their stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't like it. I don't know why. I don't know. It's like Guy Ritchie. I just like he has good actors in his movies, but it's something about the way he shoots things and the way he does things that are very Guy Ritchie-esque that I don't like. Coen brothers are kind of the same way. Are there some Coen brothers movies that I like? Sure. But I would say it's probably more like 30% of the stuff that they do that I like. And the 70% is just, ugh. I still, to this day, have not seen The Big Lebowski. And I'm more worried now to watch it because I'm like, this is like, the second Coen brother movie we've watched in the past month, and I've not been a fan of either one. I'm just like, oh God, they're going to get so mad at me if I hate, Big Lebowski. Just like probably someone's going to be mad at me that I did not care for Raising Arizona. This movie's ridiculous and not in a good way. Good things. I like Holly Hunter. I thought she was great in the film. I thought from her first scene, pretty much throughout the movie, to me, she is the one saving grace of this film. Everything Holly Hunter, I enjoyed. And Holly Hunter, I can kind of take her or leave her in a lot of things. Like, she's Elastigirl. I love her in The Incredibles as Elastigirl. She was fine in Hate. Was it? No, that wasn't her in Hateful Eight. That was Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally thought that was her. No, that wasn't her. Holly Hunter, she's fine, but I really enjoyed her in this film. I liked her in it. Nick Cage, this was Nick Cage already starting to act crazy. He just has weird mannerisms in the film, which I'm like, it's just Nick Cage being Nick Cage. But it's like, this one's like, Nick Cage is too young at this point to be having these stupid ass weird.
Well, actually, a lot of his early careers, like if you look at this, you look at Valley Girl, a lot of his early career was kind of doing these weird, goofy characters. I mean, even on through like Moonstruck, he was a little odd, but it's, in Vampire's Kiss, some others. And then he moved into like the serious phase of his career, especially when he started like action and drama and things like that. And then he kind of went over that curve and went back to being these over the top, kind of weird characters.
Nick Cage's character did not really work for me in this film. I think I'm more open to Nick Cage's performances than I think you are. In certain respects, but it's one of those things where maybe I just was not in the right mood to watch this. But this movie just gave me a headache. I mean,
I don't begrudge you anything you've said. Like, I could see giving you a headache. I can even see just it not being a style that a lot of people are going to like.
It's annoying as hell, and
I can totally accept that.
Most of John Goodman's lines is going ah the whole time. It's like, shut the fuck up, dude! Like when they escape from prison, he screams for a solid minute. It's like, shut up! Like, shut up! Seriously, someone shoot him. You had to have given more. Like, you're trying to escape prison and you're screaming the entire time. How did you not get caught? Like, my God, shut the
It was in a storm.
And I love John Goodman. I do. I really love John Goodman. My God, I could not stand his character in this film. William Forsythe, I actually didn't mind him because he was the quieter one of the two.
Yeah, he wasn't barely in it, yeah.
But Sam McMurray, I cannot stand that guy as an actor. I really can't. Everything he's in, he's just like that annoying douchebag in the corner that you just want him to get shot.
Well, to be fair, that was kind of his point in this movie.
No, but I'm not even in this movie. He's like that in every movie. So every time I see him, it's like kind of like Parker Posey. I'm just like, ugh, great. He's in this movie because I got to listen to him just talk and yammer and because that's what he does in every movie until someone either tells him to shut up or punches him, which Nick Cage punches him in this, which I was like, all right, cool. You did something right. But I mean, like Frances McDormand in her small scene, she was great. I have nothing against like honestly, I didn't recognize her right away. Because I was like, she had the big, like almost like Marge Simpson-esque kind of hair, and I was just like, oh shit, that's Frances. Okay, cool. Because I like Frances McDormand as well. I think she's fantastic also. But I mean, it's just one of those things where it's just like the first 15, 20 minutes is all like kind of like epilogue.
It is. This is one of those movies. There's this and The Fugitive, and there's some other movie I remember where I'm watching the movie and going, oh, they didn't have opening credits this movie. And finally, like 20 minutes of the movie, there's like opening credits. You're like, oh, that was all prologue.
Yeah, it's like let's have Nick Cage's story just constantly him just describing. Sorry, my mouth got super dry. Just describing him constantly getting hit in the jail. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that would be great if I could pull like water right out right now. But it's just Nick Cage talking about how he keeps getting arrested, and then Ed, Holly Hunter's character is the one who keeps taking the picture, and they try to kind of get a relationship out of it, which also the relationship is also kind of unbelievable at the same time because like you see him like twice in like 3 years, and then all of a sudden you just date him after that. Like I don't kind of believe that relationship, but they're together. They're like, okay, fine, and then you have the kind of story with like the 5 babies, and like they just take one, and like as rich as this family claims to be, they didn't have security cameras. Like they just took the baby. Like there's like, oh, we're gonna go search for prints. Like we need your prints so we can search for prints, and then they didn't ever find prints of Nick Cage. Like he's touching everything in that fucking room, and he
has a criminal record. So.
And exactly what I'm saying. He has a criminal record. They literally see him in the movie getting fingerprints. And it's like they never, ever figure out who he is, who took him, why his prints are all over the room. It's the Coen brothers, for being as great of writers as they are, this is stupid writing at this point. I chalked it up to them just kind of still being new at it. And then
their movies, especially because the early ones were a lot more surreal, which I'm not going to say that's an excuse for bad writing, but I'm going to say that they just didn't care about things like, oh, we don't care about the realism of it. We're just going make a fun movie.
Speaking of the realism of it, Nick Cage has a dream about fucking Ghost Rider, and then this character ends up becoming a real character at the same time. And like he just throws a fucking grenade in like the car at them and shit. I'm just like, this character does not belong in this movie. Like he doesn't belong. And it's just like, what the hell did this movie just turn into? And like, one of our friends who gave it like an 8 or a 9 out of 10 goes, it's a real life Looney Tunes movie, and I loved it. I'm like, you're right, it is a real life Looney Tunes movie, and it's stupid. It is stupid. The whole chase sequence where the cops are just blatantly shooting all over the place willy nilly. First off, Nick Cage doesn't even have Nick Cage is just running with Huggies, and this cop is just shooting wildly at people and everything. He's running. You don't. I hated that whole scene. Like that was when I finally realized the movie is not good. Was when this cop. First off, how did he have so many bullets? First off, once again, just realism of the film being taken out of context. Guy shoots like 100 shots at him, doesn't hit him once. He's a stormtrooper. And then he doesn't run out of ammo. And then he's shooting into a crowd of people. And it's just, and then you have the shopkeeper guy. He's still chasing him too. And then the dogs. It's just like, this is so over the top ridiculous. I'm just like, and it's loud. And they're all screaming the entire time. And it's just like,
I guess maybe that's why I enjoyed it. And like I said, I can totally understand if it's not a style that everyone's going to enjoy. But for me, it worked.
And it was one of those things where it's like, I went on my Letterboxd and everyone's giving it like 4 stars, 5 stars, 10, all of a sudden I'm like, am I the only person not getting this? Like, I feel like Mugatu in Zoolander. Am I the only one who doesn't notice that this movie's not good? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Well, then again, you like Zoolanders. That tells me something I need to know right there.
Okay, guy who likes movie 43, but still, it's one of those things where it's just like, everyone's like blown away by how great this film is. And I'm watching, I was like, this movie's not good. It's not. Holly Hunter's great in it, and I like her character arc and her character story throughout, but everything else just doesn't work for me at all. And then, like, at the end, the guy's just like, oh, well, no harm done. I was like, no, he kidnapped your kid. Like, what? What? And he's just like, oh, God. It's just, yeah, why do you, I want to ask you one thing personally. Why do you hate me?
Why do I hate you? No, I'm trying to expand your movie horizons.
Why do you make me watch movies with the shittiest score soundtrack? Why? Why is it every time? It's always Brian's pick. Guys, everyone, Brian's picks are always going to have a shitty score, whether it's this or Ravenous or I can't remember what the other one was. Like,
I'm gonna start picking them just for the worst soundtracks.
Oh my God! Like, I started like yoda yoda yoda. I'm like, what the? It's like fucking Brian. This is like, I'm waiting for like the next show to be Brian going, I actually hate this movie. I just picked it so Sean had to listen to the shitty soundtrack.
That's a good. One of these weeks when like I can't find one I really like, maybe I'll just do that.
Oh, you're such a dick. No, the soundtrack's horrible. Like I said, it's so over the top, unrealistic at a lot of points that I just couldn't get behind it. And like I said, most of the dialogue is just screaming like that. I think that's why I like Holly Hunter so much. It's because she's the only one not screaming in this movie. Like, everyone's yelling in this film, and it's like it made me miss Lady Killers. It really did. Oh my God! Like, I would rather watch Tom Hanks go horror, 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 horror than listen to John.
No, wait a minute. You gave this one 3 stars. You can't tell me Lady Killer's worth more than that.
I did 3 stars prior to this viewing to throw you off.
Is that what it was?
It's getting lowered because I was like, I don't want Brian to know I don't like this film until we talk. But no, it's, oh my God, John Goodman's character. I just wanted to shoot him in the face because he just screams the entire time. And they, I did not like this movie. Like I said, maybe I just wasn't in the right mood to watch this. Like I said, there are comedies. Super Troopers is one of them. Tropic Thunder is one of them. Where I was not in the right mood to watch those. And the first time I watched them, I fucking hated them. And then I watched them 6 months later, and I fell in love with those films. Maybe Raising Arizona will be different.
I don't think it will.
I don't think it will either because it's the Coen Brothers movie, and I've never changed.
The soundtrack alone will make you shoot yourself in the head.
Exactly, and I feel like even more so now. No Country for Old Men was basically ripping off the biker from this film. No, I'm saying.
No, I'm not a fan of No Country for Old Men. I'm in the minority there, but I don't like that movie.
We had this random dude who just shows up, fucking everything up. And then you have the scene where they're arguing with the gas station attendant again. I was like, this is No Country for Old Men again. I was like, I'm starting to see repeats in the Coen Brothers. It's like, do they only have so many? Like, this is gonna piss off a lot of people. Do they only have so many thoughts, and then they just start recycling their shit again? Because I was watching this, I'm like, okay, this reminds me of a scene from one of their other movies. This reminds me of this character from another movie. Just to an 11 on comedy factor, but. It's this, no, Raising Arizona, I was totally expecting a different film. Like, I knew it was about Nick Cage and this girl, I didn't know it was Holly Hunter at the time, kidnapped a kid kind of thing. And I thought it was like almost kind of like a road trip movie, kind of like a Perfect World with Kevin Costner, where like he kidnaps the kid and they're traveling. I thought it was kind of like that with the baby. And then I'm watching it, I was like, oh, this is so not.
This is so not.
This is so not that kind of movie. Because I try my best that whenever you give me something new that I haven't seen, I try not to watch any trailers for it. I try not to watch anything or read anything about it. I just want to go with what I think the movie is from what I've heard, and then I watch it. Just like what I said, Ravenous, I thought, you said it was a cannibal movie, and I'm like, okay, I'm expecting the worst. I was like, no, it's a Wendigo film. Okay, cool. And then it's, honestly, you take the horrible score out of that film's not that bad. But, and then, The Ruins, I thought was like, I honestly thought it was Green Inferno, and then realized, oh, it's not. It's the plant killer movie. And it is what it is. But Raising Arizona, God, no. Oh, God, no. I hated that film. I hated it. I was not a fan. I apologize. But, yeah, no, that movie is not for me. It's not for me. It is Raising Arizona. Is it on anything?
It's you can also see that one if you have Cinemax, apparently. But not anywhere else. That's it. But now we've talked about your movie, which I was not that big on. My movie, you're not that big on. Here's what we can agree on.
Yes, our featured film, which I think everyone, for the most part, can agree on. And if you don't agree, you're wrong, because this movie's great. Our featured film is a film, it's a comedy that spawned a spin-off film that I think is just, well, not, I wouldn't say just as good, but it's a solid comedy.
It's solid. Yeah.
And we both love it. I quote this film so many times because there's just so many memorable little quotes. And that is the 2008 rom-com. I'm going to say rom-com. It totally is a rom-com.
Yeah.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Forgetting Sarah Marshall came out April 18th, 2008, had a budget of $30 million, had a weekend opening of $17.72 million. Number 2, its opening weekend behind, oh my God, The Forbidden Kingdom in its first week. Wow. Talk about going to the wrong films that weekend, everybody. Had a finished box office of $105.83 million. This was definitely a word-of-mouth movie. 63.17 million domestic and 42.66 million international. Just like I Love You, Man, we both love Jason Segel from How I Met Your Mother. This film is, I think this was his first film outside of How I Met Your Mother, right? This was before The Muppets. Right?
Yeah, because it's actually partially because of this that he got the Muppets, because of the whole Dracula thing.
Exactly, and he actually sings the Muppet song in this movie at one point.
It's because, when he was promoting this movie, he was talking about how much he had this love for the Muppets and stuff like this, and then they got in touch with him and said, "Hey, do you want to do a Muppet movie?"
Yeah.
And
this was his first, because granted, I had never seen Jason Segel prior to How I Met Your Mother, so this was his first film that I had ever seen him. I'm sure he's done probably small. Oh no, he's in Tenacious D and The Pick of Destiny. He's one of the party guys.
Yeah, I mean, he actually pops up in a lot of stuff. He was in Can't Hardly Wait in a role.
Yeah,
he was in Slackers and some other movies in bit parts. But as far as starring roles,
this movie that we were like, okay, yes, it
was his first lead role, because he had one of the friend roles in Knocked Up, and then this was like his first lead role.
Yeah, I love this film. This is one of my favorite rom-coms / comedies. This is one of those where the cast is so perfectly casted. There are actors in this that I'm not normally big fans of, but they were great in the roles that they had. Then you have new actors who I didn't know. Russell Brand, for example, who I didn't know who Russell Brand was prior to this film, and loved Russell Brand's performance in this. Kristen Bell, I mean, everyone knew Kristen Bell from Veronica Mars. This is one of the first actual films outside of Fanboys that I had seen her in. She's great in this. Jason Segel's great in this. Mila Kunis, who, yes, I loved her in that 70s show, but she really hadn't had a really good movie yet. She's fantastic in this film. The cast around them, I would say kind of no-namers, like the resort people, like the bartenders, the big Hawaiian guys, they're people that have popped up in films, but they're not big name actors. They're all great. Jack, is it Jack McBride or Jack McBrayer?
McBrayer from 30 Rock.
I can't stand that guy personally, but I like him in this movie. He's one
of those guys that he perfectly fit this role.
Exactly. The scene where he's at the bar and he's like,
as a kid.
It's like, oh, now to find the mysterious clitoris.
If God wants to do that, he wouldn't put the playground next to the sewage plant.
No, I don't. He's great in this film. There's so much good, and of course, Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd is iconic.
I wonder if the carpet matched your pubes.
I'm Kunu. Oh, really? I typed my name in a website, and it stands for what was his name in the movie? I forgot what his name was in the movie, but it was like Craig or something like that. And like honestly, like I had not seen this movie in a long time, and I remembered what Jason Segel's Hawaiian name was because of Paul Rudd. Pimpi. It's like, and of course, one of those iconic lines that I think everyone remembers. When life gives you lemonades, just ditch the lemonades and just ditch the lemons and bail. It's such a great line. And he's so this is the perfect film for what you say is what a supporting actor is, like a cameo. It's not a cameo. He's a supporting actor. He comes in, kills it with the jokes, doesn't take away. He perfectly molds in with everyone around him. The story, taking the comedy. Actually, I'll hold off on this. Brian, Brigadier Sarah Marshall, go.
Yeah, I mean, you actually covered a lot of it, but I think a lot of it is just due to the great cast. Like, so Jason Segel is coming off of a, was he still doing How I Met Your Mother at this point?
No, this was like mid How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, this is mid. So when he was coming off of seeing success in How I Met Your Mother. Kristen Bell, I've always liked. I really like her as an actress. I've loved her since the Veronica Mars days. Her movie career has been very hit and miss, but I think that it's more the movies aren't good. I think she's always usually good in them because I like her especially as a comedic actress. She just has a certain kind of sassiness to her that like I said, that goes back to the Veronica Mars days. The supporting cast, I mean, you got Bill Hader showing up in roles. You got Kristen Wiig is in one scene, things like this, and a lot of them. I like the way they just, like you said, brought these people in for one thing, and they kind of came and go. They fill it with a lot of people. Jonah Hill, yeah. And but they don't like overtake the movie. They don't like. It's not like, hey, let's stop the movie and let them have their scene. It's kind of like, hey, it works in the movie. Russell Brand, I was sure was going to annoy the fuck out of me because now I didn't know who he was. I mean, I'd heard about it. He was like an MTV VJ or something, wasn't he?
Yeah, I'm looking at this was his first role.
And he had bit parts in a couple of movies, but this is his first like role where he had a real role to it. And you can kind of see that. You can see that in some of his scenes. His acting's a little bit.
He mostly just did TV series and TV movies. This was his first TV role or movie role.
And you can see that in a couple of his scenes. His acting does seem like he's still kind of learning, acting. It seems a little bit stiff, but I mean, he plays the role perfectly well. He was very well suited for it. He clearly is having a lot of fun with it.
With my eyes, but not the shirt.
Yeah, and then of course when he's singing the songs, Inside of You and things like that.
And then of course it led to get him to the Greek, where you have now a whole CD of his songs, which of course Jonah Hill plays a totally different character. But I mean, this movie literally got us get him to the Greek, which, like you said, it's a solid comedy. But we get to get the same character of Aldous Snow, plus we get Rose Byrne in that one.
Yeah, and it's two more people I loved seeing them pop up just because I thought they played the parts well. In the fictional TV series of Animal Instincts and Crime Scene of the Crime, William Baldwin and Jason Bateman show up, and they're just a lot of fun in their scenes as well. But yeah, I mean, this is a movie I just laughed at the whole movie, and it's just it's the kind of movie it's not aiming to be high art. It's just aiming to be fun, and it succeeds completely.
Well, see, the thing that works also with Bill Hader. I love Bill Hader. To me, he was my least favorite part of the film. I love the first scene where he's like, "You want to go there?" No. Yes. You sure you want to go there? Yeah, I do. And then I will end you. But then once we started doing the Skype calls, I was like, his character is we need to see less of Bill Hader at this point. There's too much Bill Hader. Pre-Hawaii, Bill Hader was great. Once he was in Hawaii, I kind of wish we had seen less of him.
Speaking of which, Sean, you're a little too far from your mic. Can you move it a little farther, closer?
No.
Farther away? No.
I'm not playing that game. But the great thing about it is, we talk about, and then of course, Dracula the musical.
Dracula the musical.
I wish.
Die. I can't.
I wish that there was a bonus feature in that was just the play. I would have
the entire thing.
Yeah. 30-minute, 45-minute play of the Dracula musical. I thought I would have loved to have seen that. I love the one scene where he's getting.
I guarantee you, somewhere in the world, some fans have put together their own full version of Dracula the musical and put it on. I'm sure on stage in Seattle or something.
There's so many just great little comedic moments, like when he's trying to get Mila Kunis's picture off the wall and he starts throwing the toilet paper. He's like, "The poo-poo paper! You throw the poo-poo paper!" It's just.
And my other favorite line in the movie is like, Are those happy tissues or sad tissues?
I'm gonna need a moment. It's so many great moments in this film. He's like, stop crying. I'm not crying. You're crying. I'm not crying. I'm not a baby. Well, you look like a giant baby. It's great, but it's like we're talking about the comedy, which was stellar throughout. But the other greatness of this film is that it's the perfect breakup film as well, because you get and to get more serious with it, this is a film that is showing both sides of the breakup. Like, granted, we're supposed to be on the side of Jason Segel. Kristen Bell cheated on him, blah, 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 blah. She's a movie star or TV show star, all this kind of stuff. But as the film grows, we're seeing elements, which anyone who's been through a hardcore breakup, me personally, I'm sure Brian has had that at some point in his life, where little things happen. I don't want to talk about it either. I want to talk about the movie. Like the moment where Kristen Bell gives him the shirt, and he's like, well, yeah, that's a good shirt, but I want to wear this. And then she immediately starts flashing back to how she bought shitty stuff and Jason Segel always wore it. Or like little moments here. There's stuff like that. When you have a heartbreak like that, these little moments that make you think about that person. Like, well, this person did this for me. Crap, they really did love me. And then the flip of the coin when Kristen Bell has that great scene where she's like, I tried. Like, I did everything I could. You were just too dumb or too stupid to notice. Mm-hmm. It is a great movie for a breakup film because, yes, most breakup films, there's a winner, there's a loser, there's someone you root for, and there's someone you hate. In this film, yes, granted, you're supposed to be rooting for Jason Segel, stuff like that, but they make Kristen Bell just as vulnerable throughout this film. Like, yes, she cheated on him, she moved on, but she still has the remnants of a broken heart because of who he is. Like, there's the one where she starts crying while talking to Mila Kunis because she's seeing Jason Segel happy, which sounds heartless, but it's just she hasn't seen that version of him in a long time and stuff like that. And then you're starting to see them have flashbacks of their old relationship, and you start to see them long for each other as well. And you're starting to see them go through the mourning and the regrouping and the growing of becoming apart to the point where they could probably be friends down the road. Like they've grown as two characters through this breakup. And that's one of those things too that's so great about this film is that, yes, it's hilarious. It is such a great comedy. There's memorable quotes throughout this film. You're from London, and stuff like that. There's so many great, but the general story of the breakup and going through the breakup and going through the heartache and healing and growing and becoming better is also incredibly well done. We get it in kind of a montage, but when Jason Segel goes back home and you see him once again still miserable, and then finally you start to see him get better and become who he becomes by the end of the film, I think is done masterfully as well. And that is why Forgetting Sarah Marshall to me is one of the best written and one of the straight up best rom-com comedies of this century, because it does everything so well. Does every joke land? No, not every joke's going to land, but it has a high percentage of jokes landing. Like I said, phenomenal supporting cast around the main characters. You care about the cast. I actually still to this day get sad at the one scene with I'm blanking on the character's name, but he's the bartender, where he's trying to get Mila Kunis and Jason Segel to go snorkeling with him so he can watch the sea turtles fucking. And they're like, no, we're going on a hike. And he's just like, why doesn't anyone want to snorkel with me? And it's like, oh, like, it's one of those things like, I feel bad for it. Like, oh, dude, I'll go snorkeling with you. I'll go watch sea turtles fuck for 3 hours. And it's one of those things that's like, oh, like, he's a small character, but I cared about his character. And, like, it's like I said, it's such a great film. Granted, I would say if you guys have never seen it, go out of your way to see it. But who hasn't seen Forgetting Sarah Marshall? I mean, let's be real. But if you haven't seen it, it's on Prime for free right now, unrated. Which I think unrated. It's not real. I think there's like a couple like sex scenes during like the one night stand.
Yeah, I honestly, I watched the unrated this time, but I honestly, and I think I've watched it before. I don't know what's new and what's old, but
the only new is Jason Segel's character hooking up with like the Mexican woman or Spanish woman. Where she's just like speaking Spanish.
There's the whole sex montage, especially like Carly Gallo, who's like, hi.
That's in the original cut, though. That is in the
original. I know. Do you want to gag me? Well, kind of now.
I love, and she has showed up in now two of my favorite comedies of all time. That and 40-Year-Old Virgin. She's in both of them in little montages.
Well, she comes from Judd Apatow. I think she was in Undeclared, his second TV show, and so she shows up in a lot of his movies.
Yeah,
and this one was produced by him, wasn't it? I think.
I want to say he definitely didn't direct.
He didn't direct it, but I think he produced it. Yeah.
He Nico Stoller directed it, and he did produce it. Okay, which granted, I like Judd Apatow's stuff, but yes, Forgetting Sarah Marshall. To me, it's going to be a classic. If it's not already considered classic, it will be. We both love this film. It's definitely a film that it has many rewatches, and like I said, quotes that we will quote probably forever. There's so many quotes that we just still didn't, say. I just went from 6 to 12. There's so many.
I will say, I mean, obviously you guys have all seen this, but if you haven't, just be aware it's definitely R-rated. I mean, the breakup scene alone, you're going to see a little more than you want to see.
And you're gonna see full frontal seagull in this film, and I mean, yeah.
I got something for you.
Will you please put clothes on? No, like put clothes on. Then it's the end. It is over.
Just go watch this movie if you haven't seen it.
Go watch. If you have seen this movie, go watch the movie again because it's great. That's our show, guys. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Weekend Crusaders. If you guys did, go and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, don't forget to follow us on all those social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, we probably will finally have a review for just Nobody. I always want to call him Mr. Nobody. It's just finally coming on demand this Friday. So I'll finally be able to get to watch it because I haven't been able to watch it in theaters. So be on the lookout for a review for Nobody probably sometime this weekend. I will finally get to watch it. I'm actually really excited for it. Brian, did you ever go see it?
Oh, I saw it opening day.
You never told me what you thought of it, so I didn't know.
Oh, I wanted to wait until you saw it to
Okay, yeah.
I will just spoil that I very much enjoyed it.
Okay, cool, great. So I know it drops on demand today, when this episode airs. So be on the lookout for that review when I get to watch it. I will definitely have one air, and then of course, Mortal Kombat is I think still 10 days away, which Brian and I will both be back for that. But next week we will have another episode of the Weekend Crusaders. We have 5 new movies. This is going to be a list here. We have a horror thriller that I'm very, very fond of that I think a lot of people either don't know about or once again grade unfairly. We've got is yours a drama?
It's more of a comedy. It's kind of a dramedy, I suppose. But it's another one that has it's not any real big stars, but nice ensemble cast, which I really love.
And I think young Sean saw this movie, but I don't remember it, but I remember the title. So I feel like I've seen it, but I don't remember anything about it. We've got a action comedy that both Brian and I, it's one of those weird movies that for some reason Brian and I are like two people that know this film, and a lot of our friends don't. But once again, it's something that Brian, this is why we're co-hosts.
We did the list. First thing, we're talking about that one.
We're talking about it. Like, you watch this movie? Like, yes, we're best friends now? I think so. It's like, where yeah, so that's definitely our feature because like this is the feature. Like we're not even going to argue on this one. Like I said, we got a stinker that we hope to God gets us back to the funny.
It's different than all our previous stinkers, but we're hoping in a good way.
This is definitely something that we have not talked about yet before on the show. So we're hoping for awesome, horrible things. And then we've got a revisited another comic book movie that I have never seen, but Brian is very fond of. I have actually never seen it. I think there's been 3 separate occasions where I tried to start watching it, and then like something happened, and I had to like stop, and I just never went back to it. So
Cast alone, I'm surprised you haven't watched it.
Yeah, Cast alone. This is totally my kind of film, and this is totally something I would have watched and probably really enjoyed. But yeah, life always got in the way of me watching this film, and now I'll actually get to watch it because I have to watch it because I'm not going to pull up Brian and not watch the movies.
All right, you said it. I watched Anger Management. Didn't find it that funny. Chuckled a couple times. That's all I'm saying. Move on.
I mean, yeah, whatever.
Just saying, I did it. I watched it. Like I said, I would.
I know you watched it. And you didn't watch the Woody Harrelson scenes, and I immediately hate you for that. But yes, figure out what those 5 movies are. And until next time, in case we don't see you, I'm Sean Wasserkrug. That's Brian Michaels. Till next time, good morning, good afternoon, and good night.
You're still here? It's over. Go home.